chaos, absolute chaos. That whole film. I gotta say that when we digitized it, we were just like, "Oh my gosh!" Lots of bad decisions there. It's like, "Oh yeah, we should have a little kids box." And we should blindfold them. Ugh, yikes! Wow. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16 millimeter films and then hold our heads because we can't believe what we've seen. So thanks for still sticking around after that visual assault. I gotta clear it. I gotta do a palate cleanser. So this is about color television. Enjoy.
To achieve color, scientists brought into focus the principles of radio, of optics, electronics, photography, and chemistry. The lens of the color television camera collects light rays in full color from the scene being televised. By the miracle of compatibility, color programs can be seen on standard black and white sets without any change or adjustment. Color receivers, which can also pick up standard black and white broadcasts, decode the color information and apply the picture in all its vivid beauty to the tricolor tube. The world of color transforms the commonplace into the beautiful. With it, the men of television had captured a paintbrush. Viewers at home could see distant scenes in all their vivid coloration. The Tournament of Roses in Pasadena provided the first coast-to-coast telecast in color. But again, this was just a milestone. A colorful future is still ahead of us. With the added dimension of color, television programming probed new horizons. Once again, technicians and artists accepted the challenge. Entirely new adventures and entertainment could now unfold before the people of America. More and more stations are becoming equipped to broadcast color every day, for without color, you are missing half the show. Mobile units began transmitting color telecasts from the bright outdoors. New sparkle and new buoyancy could be added to the enjoyment of the great sports events. The World Series of 1955 was another TV milestone, the first to be televised in natural color. The same year, the first Davis Cup matches were televised in color on the court of Forest Hills. King football, always one of the finest of sports in the finest of seasons. Now this autumnal pageantry can be enjoyed as it should, in the glory of its natural color. International Color TV, natural color from everywhere, and transmitted across the widest oceans.
That's all we got. Unfortunately, it was just a clip. Some of the collectors that we scan stuff for, they just have clips. They don't have an entire piece, so it's hard for us to figure out when the film was made, what the actual title was, etc. That's why we often have the title in brackets, because we're just making up a title. We don't really know what it is. Yesterday, we showed Alice, a high school junior, a film made in 1966 by Indiana University, and it featured a high school in Bloomington, Indiana. And we had a Patreon viewer who watched it and said, "Oh, my husband knows somebody that went to that high school in 1966." So they reached out to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's Alice Fleming. I knew her." And he said, "I'm not in the film, but many of the teachers that he had were in the film." So That's why we show films, is because these were all like regionally made, and they feature people that lived in those towns at that time. It wasn't just a bunch of actors. It was really who was there, and for some reason Alice was picked. So the next step is going to be to try to find Alice and see why it was that she was taking 2 foreign language courses in 1 semester. All right, so continuing our tribute to the electromagnetic spectrum, here's Target Invisible. Enjoy.
It's early morning at a B-29 base in the Marianas. The big bombers are getting ready for a mission, and the men are getting ready. In the essentials, the briefing differs little from others. There's a target that will be bombed. They will proceed to this point in space above the Earth, drop their bombs, and return without ever seeing the target. These are the instructions. The men are ready for the takeoff. Six hours aloft. The huge armada of superforts is spanned over 1,000 miles of trackless waters. The weather bears out the forecast. Clouds, heavy overcast, all the way to the target. At 23,000 feet, they're above it. Below and beyond lies the Japanese mainland, and somewhere beyond that, the target. If the enemy took comfort in the thought that the bombardier sees nothing more than this, they were living in a fool's paradise. For at a calculated instant, tons of high explosives, and yes, even the atomic bomb, would be sent away to the target, aimed by the miracle of radar. Before you now is the radar scope, a small circular screen giving X-ray-like vision to the mysterious 11th member of the crew, the radar operator. Until recently, we've known little of what he does, and even less about the instruments he uses. Basically, radar equipment consists of a radio transmitter and receiver. The transmitter sends a radio beam earthward. If it strikes water, the beam is not reflected. The receiver picks up nothing, and the scope appears dark, as it is now over the Pacific Ocean. But if the beam strikes a solid object, such as land, it's reflected and shows light on the scope. Watch. Something's coming in now at the upper left. Adjusting the receiver control sharpens the picture. There they are. 2 islands, both with mountains on them. That should make them easy to identify. According to the charts, only 2 islands of this shape and contour lie off the southern coast of Honshu. The little one, Kojima, the other, Hachijojima. 2 tiny dots on the face of the globe point the way for a cargo of destruction. Seven hours, 10 minutes elapsed time. Almost a full day's work for most, but to the crews, a mission less than half sweated out. The picture on the scope warns of entry to the critical zone. The return shows a large landmass, Japanese coast, over 100 miles of it. You see that bright spot at the top of the peninsula? Not exactly the picture in travel folders, but that's beautiful Fujiyama. Mount Fuji, nature's wonder, the tourist delight. Now a beacon inviting disaster, a reference point for final calculations.
Bombardier, this is radar operator, over.
This is Bombardier. Go ahead.
The wind is from 268 degrees at 138 miles per hour.
Ground speed on the bomb run, 394 miles per hour.
Data taken from the electronic wonder instruments is converted to precision aiming, pinpoint bombing.
17 degrees right.
Radar operator, this is Bombardier. Over.
Go ahead, Bombardier.
The site's set up. We're ready to bomb.
The bomb run begins with a turn directly over Fujiyama. When the bright spot that is Fuji touches the black line, the instructions are...
Pilot, start 1/4 needle with turn, rolling out on the heading of
31 degrees.
Roger. Bombardier, open bomb bay doors after turn.
Roger.
The moment for decision has arrived. The moment when the target must be singled out from hundreds of other invisible targets. Coastline with a large city. A peninsula jutting out in a bay. The city, Tokyo. This is the general target area. Northwest of Tokyo lies the specific target, the Kyushu Aircraft Factory at Kawago. A flick of the switch isolates the target image. And here it is, one tiny speck of light, the focal point for hundreds of giant bombers, for 1,000 tons of bombs.
Pilot, correct 9 degrees right.
Roger.
Ready on 70 degrees.
Ready? Mark. Mark.
At the split second before the bombs are released, the radar operator sees this.
Bombs away.
And this is what the Jap sees. His cities, his factories, in ruins.
A lot of you out there are probably asking, well, why show us this? The war's over. Well, we wanted to let you in on one of the big secrets of the war. Thought you might be interested. Yes, you're right. The war is over, and we won it. And by we, I mean the foot soldiers, the men at sea, the crews who flew the missions, you men and women who worked in the factories, the scientists who gave us radar and the atomic bomb, and every last man, woman, and child who bought war bonds. That was all part of winning the war. But now there's a matter of the peace. Most of the men in uniform will be returned to civilian life. Likewise, factory workers will go back to producing civilian goods. But our scientists must go on perfecting old inventions and developing new ones for the security of our nation at peace. And you who bought bonds in support of the war effort can buy a share in the peace by investing in bonds today. How about it?
This was less a information film and more a commercial for buying war bonds. Even after the war was over, you can see the sales technique, which is like, well, this your war bonds help pay for this technology, and we want to maintain this piece. So if you pay more war bonds, you'll be doing more technology development. It's an odd argument. But the film itself is rather interesting. And we had, a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, we showed Crisscross, which was for people who work at radar posts looking for potential Soviet flights or missiles or whatever. And so this is the direct predecessor to that and that technology. All right, so behind me I've got a film scanner set up. And this is Evan's Corner. Enjoy.
Evan walked home from school slowly today. Something was bothering him, but he didn't quite know what it was. Canary bird has its own cage, Evan thought. I want a place of my own. Flower has its own pot. Wish I had a place of my own. Paper man has his own stand, he thought. And I, me, myself, I need a place of my own. As Evan neared the two-room apartment that he and his family shared, he looked forward to having the place to himself for a while. Soon his 3 sisters and 2 brothers would come home. Then his mother and then his father. A mighty lot of family, Evan thought. And no place to call just mine. Usually, Evan was the first one home. He had his own key. But today...
Surprise.
Evan's mother had left work early and arrived home before him. He liked it when she got home ahead of him. Now they could have a private talk before his brothers and sisters came in. Mama, you know what I've been wishing for hard, Evan burst out. Tell me, his mother smiled. Evan told her the canary bird had a cage. He told her the flower had a pot. And he told her that the paper man had a newsstand. He ended, and I want a place of my own. Why, of course, Evan's mother said. It will work out just right. There are 8 of us. That means each one of us has our own corner. Can I choose mine? Go ahead, she said. You have first choice. Evan looked at every corner in both rooms. One corner had a pretty edge of rug. One had an interesting crack in the wall. And some had nothing much. But the one Evan liked best, the one he wanted for his own, had a nice, large window and a bit of polished floor.
This is mine. This is my corner.
Evan's mother had no kitchen. She shared the kitchen down the hall with another lady. Often, Evan went with her to keep her company while she fixed supper. But that night, he paid no attention to the rest of the family. He sat alone and content on the floor in his corner.
Stew's on the table. You ready to eat with us, Evan?
Please, Pa. If I bring my plate here, can I eat by myself?
Why, sure.
Hurry up in there. Dinner is getting cold.
Coming up.
Evan, why do you want a corner of your own? I want a chance to be lonely.
Adam?
Here, dear. Pass this down to your father.
Pass us all, please.
I saw Mr. Davis down at Regan's this afternoon.
Oh, how is he?
He put on a little weight.
Did he have anything to say?
He said hello.
Are you being lonely now?
No.
What are you doing then?
Wasting time in my own way, in my own corner.
Could I ever come in your corner?
Why don't you choose a corner of your own?
Evan, what should I do in my corner?
Whatever you like.
Okay, cowboy. Jump on. Okay, kids, come on. Into bed now. Bedtime, everyone.
Come on out of your corner, sleepyhead. It's time for bed.
Yes, Papa.
Evan went to bed that night very contented. Now he had a corner all his own. The next morning, Evan went back to his corner. The window was still fun to look through. The bit of polished floor shined as brightly as ever. But Evan felt that his corner needed something more. What could it be? I know what I need, he thought suddenly. A picture. And he thought as he rushed off to school, I'll do it myself.
I'm going to take this in a place of my own.
That will be lovely, Evan.
Evan was proud of his picture. He showed it to the canary. In fact, he was so proud of it, he almost showed it to the flower. That would be silly, he thought. Flowers can't see. Then he thought of someone who would really appreciate it.
Guess what, mister?
What's that, my boy?
I'm going to hang this picture in a place that's just mine.
That's a nice boat, Evan. Do you think I can draw a picture for my corner?
Sure you could.
Are you being lonely, Evan?
No.
Are you wasting time in your own way?
No.
Well, then what are you doing?
Enjoying peace and quiet.
That night, Evan did not sleep well. He lay awake in bed, thinking about his corner. It had a nice window and a nice floor, and now it had a nice picture. But was that enough? No, he decided finally. I need something more. But what? He remembered the pink flower in its pot. That's it, he thought. I need a plant of my own, in my own corner.
What are you doing, Evan? Watching my plant grow. Maybe I'll have a plant too, someday.
But Evan didn't answer. Something was bothering him. Even now his corner seemed not quite perfect. What was missing?
I need some furniture.
Evan wondered why he hadn't thought of that before. Evan went to Meehan's grocery store and asked for 2 orange crates. What do you want them for? Mr. Meehan asked. Gonna make me some furniture, Evan said proudly, to put in a place of my own. Evan thanked Mr. Meehan for the crates and hurried home. In his corner, Evan put 1 crate on end like a desk. He turned the other one upside down to make a bench. Surely now he had all he could wish for. And yet, how come he still felt like something was missing?
I know.
I need a pet to take care of. A pet of my own, in my own corner.
Here's a pet for me.
Just then, the turtle winked at him, as though it knew a secret.
Please, mister, fill a job for me. I would sure like to earn enough money to buy a turtle.
Sorry, son. I don't need help. Try next door.
Sir, do you have a job for me?
Oh, no. My son is helping me. Try across the street.
Evan crossed the street. He marched from store to store, asking for work. Everywhere it was the same. He had no luck. Evan arrived in front of a supermarket. Hey, he thought, maybe some lady would pay me to carry her packages.
Carry your bag, lady. Carry your bags, ma'am. They look mighty heavy.
That would be a big help.
Thank you.
A dime. He had a dime. Now all he needed was 4 more. He waited, he smiled, and he spoke politely. Lots of ladies went by, but none of them wanted him to carry their bags. Just as Evan began to feel that he would never make another cent,
Oh, good. I hate lugging bundles.
Thank you.
only 3 more to go, he thought happily. But it was late now, and time to be home for dinner. On Sunday, the market was closed, but Evan went there right after school on Monday.
$10, $20, $30, $40. Turtle, you're almost mine.
Sonny, do you think you could help me with these?
Where's the lady?
Just next door. 3 flights up.
Thank you.
Hey, let's try. Here's some money. I'd like to buy a turtle.
All right, son. Choose one.
This one.
Evan carried the turtle home in a small bowl. He set it on top of the upturned orange crate. Adam was already home from daycare center.
What you got now, Evan?
My own pet. To take care of in my own corner.
Adam wanted to see it closer, but he knew he wasn't allowed in Evan's corner.
Evan? Evan, do you think I can ever put on my own?
Sure, when you're much, much older.
Now Evan had many things. He had a place of his own. He could be lonely there. He could waste time if he liked. He could enjoy peace and quiet. Best of all, he had a pet of his own to love and take care of. Evan spent most of his spare time in his corner. But it was strange. He just wasn't happy. I must need something more, Evan thought. But what?
Mama, I'm not happy in my corner.
Oh?
What do I need now?
Evan, maybe you should leave your corner for a while. Just fixing up your own corner isn't enough. Maybe you need to step out now and help somebody else.
Are you enjoying peace and quiet?
No.
What are you doing?
I'm planning to borrow Lucy's crayons.
Why?
To help you make a picture if you want to, so we can make your corner the best, the nicest, most wonderful corner in the whole world.
So as you could see reading the credits, that was based on a children's book called Evan's Corner. And I have quite a few films that are adaptations of children's books. And that one was great. So I have a friend who, her family of 7 lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in the West Village in the 70s and 80s. And I cannot fathom 5 kids. But, this, I guess it resonates, the idea of having your own space. I mean, I was lucky. I always had my own room. And I only had one sibling she had her own room. So the sense of just having a little space, I get it. Totally understand. Because I didn't really share a room with anybody until I was in college. And then I was like, oh, that's crazy. I don't think I like this. All right, so let's shift gears and learn about the mark of wholesome meat in beautiful color. Enjoy.
America's continuing growth depends on the health of her people. A plentiful supply of nutritious, wholesome food will keep our nation strong. Abundant protein-rich meat contributes to the well-being and strength of our people and our country. Meat is a favorite with almost everyone, everywhere. Nowadays, more and more of the meat you buy comes to you fully prepared, ready to eat.
Ball. 2 and 2 on target. 1 out. Runners on first and second. Foul stretches.
Easy to serve, prepared meats are an accepted part of our everyday life. No more grinding, mixing, slicing, or even cooking at home unless you want to. This time-consuming work is done for you. Prepared meats, inspected and passed by the United States Department of Agriculture, are clean, safe, wholesome, and truthfully labeled. How can you be sure? Learn for yourself what it takes to earn the right to display the USDA mark of wholesomeness. The story behind this mark of wholesomeness begins with the millions of animals moving from America's farms and ranches through federally inspected slaughtering plants each year. They represent more than 80% of the commercial meat slaughtered in this country. Animals coming under federal inspection are carefully examined by thoroughly trained USDA meat inspectors. Livestock unfit for human consumption is slaughtered separately and converted to fertilizer or other non-food uses. What's more, all government-inspected plants and equipment must meet federal requirements. Each day before operations may begin, everything must be clean and sanitary. The standards are high for your protection. Nothing is left to chance. Every machine part that comes in direct contact with the food you eat must be designed for easy cleaning, and cleanliness is strictly enforced. From the moment a carcass starts on its way along the line, federal meat inspectors stand guard to protect you, the consumer. All meat that passes inspection is stamped with a round purple mark of wholesomeness. The law requires this mark for all meat shipped across state lines or in foreign commerce. Any questionable carcass is set aside. If not acceptable as human food, it is condemned. Only clean, safe, and wholesome meat goes into the cooler for further processing. Every year, from one end of the country to the other, long lines of beef, veal, lamb, mutton, and pork go into the prepared and processed meats that are inspected and passed by the United States Department of Agriculture. About 18 billion pounds a year, or 2/3 of all the processed meats consumed in this country, are prepared under federal inspection. Whether this inspection is made in Portland, Omaha, Dallas, or your hometown, it is the same. The inspector protects you at a point where you cannot do it yourself. For instance, he sees that the processor limits the amount of the less expensive ingredients used in a product. When meat is used in combination with other approved ingredients, regulations specify the minimum amount of meat that must be used in the product. Take frankfurters. More than 7 billion franks and wieners each year earn the U.S. mark of wholesomeness. You identify a frank by its shape and color. The meat inspector sees more than that. He sees that it's made from wholesome meat with approved amounts of other ingredients. In fact, under federal meat inspection, all products containing meat, including soups, gravies, and stews, must contain wholesome ingredients only of the kind and amount appropriate for that product. Federal meat inspectors in the plant make final judgment on acceptability of products. They make judgments every day, many times a day. They rely on their training, experience, and highly developed senses of sight, smell, and touch. They inspect thousands of different meat products for your individual selection. There's bologna, bacon, patties, scrapple, pork loaf, salami, liverwurst, head cheese, liver pudding, luncheon meat, and other favorites. Most of the meat products they see are acceptable, prepared and packaged to suit the most discriminating taste. Even so, the inspector is ever watchful. Where he has a question, he usually makes an on-the-spot judgment. When he isn't able to do so, he may call on the meat inspection laboratories for detailed analyses. For this, he takes a sample like this one in the plant. He packs it with identification, adds dry ice, and sends it along to the nearest meat inspection laboratory. In the lab, the skills and techniques of the scientists will answer the inspector's questions. This bacteriologist tests for evidence of antibiotics or other preservatives, which are not permitted in federally inspected products. A part of the sample is measured placed in the blender, and a phosphate buffer added. The resulting mixture is poured into Petri dishes. Paper discs are dipped into this mixture and then placed on plates already treated with assay organisms. After a period of incubation, discs from 2 different meat samples give their answers. Antibiotics are not permitted because they could conceal some kinds of deterioration while preserving the normal meat color. Scientists in the laboratories are there to help the inspector in the plant resolve the questions he faces. They provide one more resource on which he can draw in making a final judgment of acceptability. And until such final judgment is made, the product is retained. Then it is either released for food or rejected and converted to uses other than food. These laboratories employ chemists, microbiologists, bacteriologists, histopathologists. They analyze materials sent to them by the meat inspectors in the plants. What's more, these laboratories employ not only the familiar tools of the scientific profession, but more and more use new, highly sensitive electronic devices for complex tests and precise answers. Let's take a look at some of these people seeking answers to the questions of inspectors. For instance, they may be asked to determine the wholesomeness of spices or other non-meat substances, or to check for the presence of foreign materials and molds. They may be asked to measure the protein content of a product. It's a simple test for the chemist and an important protection for you, the consumer. A scientist may be called on to determine the species from which a sample of meat is derived. Is it beef, pork, mutton? This record may confirm the inspector's suspicion that pork is included in a product labeled all beef. Whatever the finding, it goes to the inspector who decides how to classify the product. He controls the labeling of all federally inspected products to assure accurate information for the consumer. The department also gives close attention to imported as well as domestic products. This technician prepares a foreign sample to be tested for possible residues left by pesticides. Since chemicals are absorbed into the meat fat, the first step is to draw off the fat. The chemist heats a sample in an oven and pours the fat into a flask. To this, he adds solvents and extracts chemicals from the fat. He then applies the extract to chromatic paper. This is tedious, time-consuming work, but it pays dividends in consumer protection. The chemist now exposes the paper to ultraviolet light. This reveals the presence of any pesticide. Each one produces its own characteristic pattern in definite positions. When chemicals are shown to be present, another machine, a gas chromatograph, can be used to determine how much. This device is so sensitive that minute traces, even 1 part in a million, can be recorded. Such highly sensitive and precise laboratory methods increase the meat inspector's ability to assure thorough protection for your meat supply. Here is a safeguard we hope we'll never have to use. Meat inspectors throughout the country are being trained and equipped to check for possible residues of radioactive fallout in case of an accident or national emergency. And to support them, laboratory personnel are able to run tests on meat samples. Here's the way it's done. This capsule of ash represents what was once a 5-pound steak. An anti-coincidence scaler, or a beta counter, can measure any significant amount of radioactivity in the ash. This is the kind of intensive laboratory testing that supports the meat inspector and affords you unseen protection. The inspector also makes sure you get what you pay for. USDA inspection requires that food products containing meat have to be labeled properly. These labels accurately describe the contents. This provision in the law safeguards your interests. It helps protect you from misinformation or deception. You can read for yourself what goes into the prepared meats you buy. The meat inspector makes sure that the label lists all ingredients and identifies the specific kind of meat or meats used in a product. You can be sure the processor has used at least the minimum amount of meat specified for this product. For instance, according to federal regulations, chili con carne with beans must contain at least 25% beef, based on fresh weight. Pork with barbecue sauce must have at least 50% cooked pork. Rest assured that the proper percentage is in the finished product because federal meat inspectors see that the official requirements are met. These requirements are set forth in the regulations governing the meat inspection of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Great care has been taken in establishing these rules. Equally great care is taken to maintain them. They are revised as necessary to keep up with changing times and new products. These regulations have evolved from the records of more than 50 years' experience in meat inspection. Inspection initiated and maintained to assure a wholesome product properly labeled. Specialty dishes, in addition to meeting all other requirements, must also have a reasonable resemblance to the form and taste historically established for them. Even the picture on a label must be accurate. It cannot show more meat than the package contains. Special claims must be right, too. To examine label claims, Meat Inspection's own home economists test products under conditions similar to those in your own home. Take this bacon. The processor claims it will not char. It has been cured with a USDA-approved synthetic sweetener. Let's watch kitchen testing at work. Yes, the claim proves to be accurate. The anti-charring statement will be allowed to appear on the label. At the U.S. Department of Agriculture, specialists carefully screen each proposed label before it may be used legally. The processor can market with confidence, and you, the consumer, may be certain that the meat product is clean, safe, wholesome, and truthfully labeled when it receives the stamp of approval. Prepared meats are American favorites. Favorites for convenience, favorites for nutrition, and favorites for flavor. Prepared meats are easy to serve and good to eat. They are enjoyed by almost everyone, everywhere, every day. So whenever you're out shopping, for yourself or the whole family, it's easy to recognize those meat products that have been approved by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Just look for the mark of wholesomeness.
Yeah, incredibly tedious, and I like the fact that they said this work is incredibly tedious. We have some other films about meat that we scanned for someone who's doing a documentary on some aspect of meat in the 20th century United States. But thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Started off with a bang, with a sock, and ended with some meat. If you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button, the like button. You can also donate. Thank you, Jeremy, for the Evans Gerbil Fund, which he did via the YouTube Super Thanks feature, which is a button that you can hit below the chat. Let's see. You can also get us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks, or you can go to patreon.com/avgeeks, and that's kind of like a tip jar subscription service. So these are all wonderful ways you can support us. Just watching and commenting and sharing, that helps us a lot too. So thank you for that. We will see you again tomorrow. What is it, Thursday? Tomorrow? Yikes. Already burned through the week. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Everybody take care. And don't forget that I heart films. And I hope that you do too. And we'll see you soon. Take care.